Welcome to the Expansion Code Bridal Edition, the show for bridal hairstylists, makeup artists, beauty pros, and yes, even brides who want the behind the veil scoop. I'm your host, Heather Dick, bridal business coach, salon owner, and ringmaster of a 50-person squad that styles hundreds of weddings every year. Around here, we go beyond the hairspray. Thanks scaling your business, setting boundaries, surviving high-pressure moments, and creating client experiences that everyone raves about. So whether you're building your bridal empire or planning your big day, grab a coffee or champagne, and let's talk business, beauty, and a whole lot of bridal. Hello. Welcome to the Expansion Code Bridal Edition. This is where it all began. When I first started this podcast, my reach was a little more broad. And I think maybe that's just the way that my brain works. I want to talk about real estate. I want to talk about commercial build-outs and all that stuff. And when I had a few coaching clients, specifically in the bridal world, I was like, oof, I got to narrow this podcast down. This is my niche. This is where it all started. And I know it like the back of my hand. And if I'm being really honest, the reason why I didn't start out that way was because I talk about brides and bridal 24/7. And so I was like, no, I don't want to do a podcast like a little kid. I don't want to. But then I realized that really is a very comfortable place for me. And because I built Blush, my success on and in the bridal industry, I figured why not niche down and coach clients that are also in the bridal industry. And this podcast is going to have stuff for brides. We have a series on how to prep your skin, how to prep your hair. So just a little bit more specific. This episode, I'm going to give you the background to my experience in the bridal industry, how I got started. Just going to build a little credibility, if you will. So it's not going to be a story time. It will be a little bit of train of thought, but try to dial it in. I don't drink coffee anymore, so it should be okay. So back in 2007, I was actually in nursing school. I was looking to just make some extra cash. My mom was always really good at makeup. I was always playing in her makeup. And to be honest, I have no idea what prompted me to get my makeup certification. Zero clue. By this time, I had already had my real estate license and I worked bartending weddings, catering, like as a server. So I'm really not sure what prompted me to get my makeup certification, but I did. And I took I think it was a 6-week or 8-week course every Wednesday night. Man, it was so fun. I was very good at makeup to begin with, and I just had a natural eye for it. And I loved the industry. I loved working with people. And so while I was in nursing school, I got a job with Estee Lauder, just working at a counter. This is 2007. Okay. So Sephora wasn't around yet. Nothing, no big makeup stores were around. The Bay and Sears was where you went to get your makeup advice and purchase your skincare products and all of that. The minute I started working at Estee Lauder, I freaking loved it. I loved working with women. I loved talking about skincare. I loved talking about makeup. I loved doing makeup. And it was just, I couldn't wait to go to work. You guys, I would go to work on my days off. I'd go to the mall on my days off. I loved it so much. And the pay was absolute crap. And I think it's funny because looking back, it actually wasn't that great of a job. Like it was retail. The hours sucked. I was working weekends. It wasn't glamorous by any stretch of the imagination, but I loved it. And I actually quit nursing school. I never went back. I worked my way up in Estee Lauder throughout the company. So I started at a mall in Edmonton, Alberta here. I went to Holt Renfrew. If you're from Canada, you'll know that is, a very prestigious, high-end Louis Vuitton, Tiffany, Fendi, all of those things. Gucci, that's where you'd get those lines and brands. And I worked at the counter at Estee Lauder there. It was a pretty good experience. My manager there was kind of, how do I say this? A bitch. And she was pretty mean to me. I was very really easygoing. I've never been super hoity-toity. So working in somewhere like Holt Renfrew where image is everything, I felt a little bit out of place. I've been really jovial and joking all the time. But it did teach me something about how to persevere through crappy times like that and just get to know other lines. An opportunity opened up at Southgate Mall, which is an excellent mall in Edmonton, Alberta. It's one of the best malls next to West Edmonton Mall, of course. And I was running that counter very quickly. So within a few years, I was in 2007, or sorry, by 2010, I was the manager at the Bay Southgate. This counter was doing $1 million a year when I started there. That's incredible. Do you know how many moisturizers that do you know how many 40, well, it's $30 at the time, but $30 foundations? Whew, boy, busy. Again, loved it. I would and we would throw events, we would have anything to bring people to the counter. We had galas. And so at an early age or my early on in my career, I saw the value of bringing people together, not just for sales, but for the sake of building a community. And I really learned how to take care of clients through Estee Lauder. You know, we had client charts. We would write down everything that they purchased. We would call them when we had specific promotions going on. And the level of customer service was just so, so good back then. I feel like we're losing that a little bit, if I'm being honest, in today's age. But we'll talk a lot about that on the podcast and how you can elevate your client experience. So 2010, in the meantime, in 2007, I'd created Blush Artistry and I had train named it at the registries. I created business cards and I was just kind of doing it on the side. I would do it on the weekends whenever I wasn't working. I would take clients for weddings. I did not take it seriously. I did not charge enough. I don't even know if I charged anything. It was just a fun thing that I was doing. In 2010, I actually left Estee Lauder to work for my parents' company. It's an auto body shop, totally different industry. And I was working there. I was still doing makeup on the side, not as much because I was out of the industry, but I was still practicing the artistry, the craft, we'll say. 2014, I decided to get a Facebook page, very late adopter of social media, and I started to advertise my work. And you guys, out of the woodwork, people were coming to me. Oh my God, Heather, I've been looking for you forever. You did my hair, or you did my makeup at a hair salon that I used to contract for here and there years ago. And it's interesting because looking back when I was looking to get a job at Estee Lauder, I pounded the pavement. I went to hair salons. I introduced myself to everyone. I had printed out all of my makeup pictures and I put it in a flip book. That was my portfolio. That's what I was walking around to these hair salons like, you need to hire me as your makeup artist. And in 2007, no one really had their makeup done. They'd get their hair done for their weddings or special events, but they really wouldn't get their makeup done. So I was hard pressed to find someone that took me seriously. But a couple hair salons did contract me on to do makeup for their weddings if they could convince their brides to hire me, which was great experience. I learned a lot. Fast forward to 2014, like I had mentioned, people are coming out of the woodwork and I was fully booked all of a sudden, immediately. I decided that I was starting to turn away business and I would refer it to my friends or my makeup artist friends that I knew in the industry. And I remember my parents are very smart business people. He said, the day you turn away business is the day you do bad business. So I figured out a way to keep that business within my company Blush, my baby company, which was not making money. Like, I mean, I didn't file taxes. I didn't do anything. It was business cards. Literally, that was it. Didn't have a website. Actually, maybe by 2014 I did. Anyways, and so I hired my first makeup artist. And she was actually a bride of mine who had taken her makeup certification. Her name's Shannon Ledger. She's still with the team. Shout out Shannon. And we sat down in Cora's breakfast spot and we figured out how to make it work. We were going to do a commission based. I paid her way too much money. I didn't know what I was doing. I couldn't even work an iPad at that point. We didn't have a scheduling program. We just figured it out. It was me running the company and Shannon being my very strong support system. And we were just going with it. We were just happy to be doing makeup. There was no pressure to make money. If it worked out, it did. If it didn't, it's fine. We both had full-time jobs. We were just cruising. Shortly after, Shannon became fully booked. Shannon's an incredible makeup artist. Still is to this day, one of the most requested artists on the team. And so I decided to hire another friend of mine, Jamie. Then Jamie became fully booked. And then I decided to I headhunted a girl named Carly. Again, she's still on the team. And all of a sudden there was five of us, five makeup artists, and we were working willy-nilly. I had a spreadsheet that was not really keeping track of anything, deposits. I was losing money. It was a nightmare. Looking back on it, it's a good thing I had a full-time job and I didn't have to spend Blush's money. And that's how it succeeded because everything was so poorly tracked. The company didn't need to make money at that point. So my boyfriend, now fiance, at the time we've been together for a long time, he was with me at the very beginning there and he helped me create a little bit more of a system. He's a systems guy. bless him. And I realized that I needed to start taking things seriously. And I'll never forget the day we had a bunch of weddings booked and like probably 30. And I called up my friend Jordan, who's still my accountant to this day. And I said, Jordan, I have $12,000 in my bank account right now. I have to owe taxes. Like I'm freaking out. I'm losing sleep. And he's like, Heather, you need to chill out, dude. That's not nearly enough. You're fine. Just ride it out. I did everything was above board. Please don't make it. I don't want it to seem like I was, tax evasion or anything, but I just genuinely didn't have any business experience. I didn't have any experience with filing taxes, GST, any of that. But I did have good people in my corner. And I think that's important. I think it's important to recognize when people have actually helped you catapult your career. My accountant, my parents, Shannon, Carly, I give a lot of credit to the people that were with me in the early days and the patience that they had because, I've always been a very like agreeable person and I really try to make things work the best for everyone. And that's been one of the big reasons why Blush has succeeded. And that goes for my clients, our clients. I make sure that they know how important they are and that we're so happy they've chosen us and it's an honor. Quick pause because I have to brag on my first business baby, Blush Artistry. If you know me, you know that Blush isn't just work, it is love. And we are talking hair, makeup, skin treatments, private personal training, the full beauty experience inside and out that makes you feel like the main character, whether it's your wedding day, a birthday, or just because you love taking care of yourself. My team, they are absolute pros. They've got the talent, the heart, and the hype to make you feel amazing. That's why Blush is the go-to beauty squad in Western Canada. Can I get an amen? So if you're ready for a little glow up moment, head to blush-artistry.ca or catch us on Instagram at blushartistrymua. All right, let's get back to the show. In 2016, Cameron and I moved in together. Previous to that, I took $20,000 of my line of credit and built a makeup studio in my old home. And it was a scorcher. The lights were halogen. I swear to God, it would get up to like 38 degrees in there in the summertime. I remember a bride coming with her bridesmaids to get ready and they were all in like bikinis. She's like, I told you girls, it gets real hot in here. They stripped down to like shorts and bikini tops. It was incredible. Her name's Danielle. If you're listening to this, I remember you. I'm sorry you sweat so much on your wedding day. But in 2016, we moved into our current home in Sherwood Park, and we developed our main or the basement floor of the house to become a full business studio. So we had a hair sink, two hair chairs. We had a 10-person makeup station. We also had a treatment room. There was a separate entrance already to that area of the home. And we were able to block off our living area, which was incredible. It was a blessing. And we stayed there from 2016 to 2021. So that was 5 years without rent. I was also still working at my parents' auto body shop. So Blush didn't need to make money. Blush was making money, but it didn't need to. And I think that that was one of the greatest successors and the reason that propelled our success. Right from the get-go, Blush never needed to make money. And so it was incredible. By the time from 2016 to 2021, that's in the middle of COVID, obviously, we all know that. Our team had grown to 25 contractors. 25 girls were working out of my house on a regular basis, not all at the same time, but it was, my neighbors must just think I was running a brothel because these girls, artists, hairstylist clients are just constantly coming in and out of my house. And bless my neighbors for never complaining about the parking because on a Saturday, like I couldn't even find parking in my own house. Good times, it was fun. It was like a little frat house though. Looking back on it, there's a lot of great things about having the studio in my house, especially to that capacity. But there's a lot of things that kind of sucked. I didn't really ever have time off. I was working at the shop full time and weekends were fully booked from 6 a.m. to whatever. And so it was fairly high stress moments of my life in that moment, but I had to go through that and I had to persevere through those times in order to get to where we are today. Because when we did finally open a commercial space, I had a bunch of money banked. I was able to pay cash for every single renovation that we've done. And it's left me strapped for sure over those like past couple years, but I'm still making it. And so in 2021, a good friend of mine, Justin, he's been on the podcast. He is my trainer. And he said, if anyone was to get a commercial space, now would be the time. Businesses are moving out at a rapid rate. Commercial rates are insanely low. And I thought, man, that's really smart actually. So we started looking. We found our current space. So for reference, okay, the old blush studio, which is now a gym in our home, was about 700 square feet. The new place that we signed a lease on is 4,700 square feet. That's a massive upgrade. That's more than six times the space. And we had treatment rooms. So to begin with, we had 4 hair chairs downstairs, all for rent. We had 3 treatment rooms in the back. Upstairs was just kind of like, we're going to figure it out. We got an incredible deal on the rent upstairs, so I was able to float it for a little bit. But for reference, I went from paying $0 in rent to paying $6,100 immediately. And I didn't take that lightly. It was very important for me to make sure that I was planned and I was ready. I had enough money in the bank that if I didn't make a single dime with Blush, I'd be able to pay the rent for 3 years if I didn't take in a dime. Okay. So I was able to set myself up and Blush to a point where we had security and we had that nest egg. And that was an absolute blessing and something that I'm so grateful that I did. Even in hindsight, I didn't really realize what I was doing, but it was it was a good thing that I did it. you know? I'd never had the dream to have what I have. I've never really been a big dreamer, if I'm being honest. Things have just really organically played out for me and for the company and for my team, even my relationship. I think that it's a great feeling to just let things develop as they should. Please do not take this the wrong way. There have certainly been times in my life where I have forced things and I've pressured and I've stressed, specifically over renovations. But for the most part, Blush has grown because we have an incredible team and we've got amazing clients, loyal clients. They talk about us in rooms, they recommend us on Facebook pages, they tag us, and the work speaks for itself. So 2021 we opened the studio, and 2022 I actually decided to leave the shop. So I was still doing I was still working full time at my parents' business up until 2022. That's only 3 years ago. I thought I was doing so well. I thought I was operating so good. I was stressed to the max on a regular basis. I was short. I was snappy. I've talked about this in previous episodes. It was not good. And my mom sat me down and she said, Heather, something's got to give. You're not having any fun. No one around you is having any fun. You got to choose. You need to, and please don't take this the wrong way. It's not like she was like Blush or Cougar. That's my parents' business name. It was mostly like, you need to decide to do Blush full time. This is where your heart lies. You're doing everything kind of 60% right now. And Blush was suffering because of it. I was making so many mistakes. I've always kind of had someone helping me with bookings and that kind of thing, but still it doesn't matter that the volume is just so high. By 2021, again, COVID's kind of a bad time to measure, but we were doing over 200 weddings a year, 200 weddings, 200 brides. And I was filtering all of the information for that, timing for everyone, artists, hairstylists, everything. And it was a lot. So it was very scary to leave my parents' business because it was nice. I was making a healthy amount of money per month. I was very comfortable, but my company was not comfortable and the girls needed me. So I quit. I packed up my stuff and I said, I'm out of here. And I miss it every day. I miss the shop. I miss my family. I see them all the time. It's not like they're gone, but I do miss that. I do miss working at the shop. In between 2022 and today, we have now expanded the studio to heights that I never would have imagined. We now occupy 12,000 square feet. We have expanded our portfolio to offer every single thing that you could imagine under one roof. So we have a hair salon. Are you ready for this? Hair salon, special event hair and makeup, weddings, nails, psychic medium, tattoos, registered massage therapist, 2 estheticians offering laser services, facials, waxing, laser hair removal, tattoo removal. We have a registered nurse offering Botox and filler and also laser resurfacing. We have Ashley who does lashes and brows. We have a full salon suite, so another full hair salon underneath our roof. That's the Hair District. I love them so much. I have 2 sublease tenants. They occupy 5,000 square feet on the main floor of our latest expansion. That's acceleration physio and cross conditioning. And they obviously do private training, athletes, schools, chiropractor, massage, all that kind of stuff. It's incredible. It's incredible to think where I was in 2007 to where I am today and where Blush is today. This company has been given every opportunity to grow at its own pace. I've been fairly picky with who I hire. I've certainly made some bad mistakes with that. I will be the first to admit it. I hired out of desperation a couple times and I should have never done that. But we're human and I'm not perfect, but the quality of work and the level of customer service that we provide our clients, every single client, as much to our ability as possible, is what has catapulted Blush's success and the pressure of not having to make money right off the hop. And so if you're listening to this and you just started following, let's say I don't say my journey because that sounds like a little bit vain, but let's say you started following Blush 3 years ago. We've grown a lot in 3 years, but we've grown way more since 2014. And I think it's important to remember if you are just starting this journey, or let's say you're 2 or 3 years into your wedding industry journey, the best is yet to come. You need to stick through it because this industry will chew you up and spit you out. The competition is fierce, but if you maintain your quality of work and you focus on your client service and your client experience, you will succeed, my friend. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you. And I hope that this podcast, season 3, sheds a little bit of light on how to do that and just gives you maybe something you can relate to. It's important to feel like you're not alone, especially as a solo entrepreneur, because I can get lonely out there. And but you are not alone. You have me and you have this podcast now, and we're in it together. And if you are ever looking to chat with someone about how to build your business to new heights, or even just get advice on like certain areas, I'm here for you. And I hope that this podcast proves to be a great resource for you and your business. Again, I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. We've certainly messed up within Blush, but you wouldn't be a business owner if you haven't. It's the same thing as being a parent. There's things that you do that you regret, a dog owner, whatever. We're all human, and this is a human experience that we're all living through each day. And I think it's important to give yourself grace, recognize your mistakes when you make them, and move on and just do better each day. With that, I will conclude this episode of allowing me to reintroduce myself. And I hope you enjoy season 3. I've worked really hard on creating content that I think everyone should get something out of. And as always, hit me up and let me know if you have any topics you want me to cover. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning into the Expansion Code Bridal Edition, your VIP access to a booked out, balanced, and thriving bridal business. If you loved today's episode, hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow beauty pro. For more tips and behind the scenes magic, hang out with me on Instagram at IamHeatherDick or visit theexpansioncode.ca. Until next time, keep slaying those styles, leading with confidence, and remember, every detail counts, and so do you. Another little disclaimer, while I love sharing advice and business wisdom, I am not your lawyer, I'm not your accountant, and I'm not your fairy godmother. If you do want to be best friends, though, you can hit me up. Everything on this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, so no lawsuits, okay?